afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I hope everyone's having a great conference. My name is Satyen Paneri. I'm part of the product marketing team with Guidewire. And today's session is going to be about forging CopperPoint's future-ready foundation with the implementation of Guidewire Cloud Data Access and the integration framework. So I'm sure you've seen this several times in the last couple of days, but any forward-looking statements, questions, or discussions that may come up is covered by our safe harbor statement, so we're required to present this with all the sessions. Our speakers today are Brad Lawns, SVP and CIO for CopperPoint, and Sid Dixit, Senior Architect for CopperPoint. So in the session today, you'll hear how CopperPoint has successfully implemented a cloud-native lakehouse pattern and that has revolutionized their on-premise enterprise data warehouse. You'll see the integration of Guidewire Cloud Data Access with Databricks, Mulesoft, and other AWS services to ensure the smooth delivery of data into the enterprise data warehouse, which serves as a central hub for several mission-critical interdependent systems. So the solution that will be presented today has not only paved the way for future analytics use cases, but also ensures the uninterrupted operations of critical systems for CopperPoint. Here's the agenda for today. We'll begin with a brief history of CopperPoint and why they decided to move to Guidewire Cloud. And this transition presented several challenges as well as opportunities, and you'll see how CopperPoint has successfully embraced cloud-native patterns. Next, we'll deep dive into the architecture of the solution. We'll look at the alternatives that were evaluated along the way and also look at the data pipeline. And then we'll end the session with lessons learned and some recommendations for you. So now, it's my pleasure to welcome Brad.
Thanks, Satya. Well, thanks everybody for coming. Before we get started, I thought just to help us a little bit, for those in the audience, if you're on cloud, can you raise your hand? Oh, good. Okay, good. It's a good mix. So we're going to take you through a little bit of our journey, and hopefully that'll be helpful for you. So I'm going to start and I thought it would be helpful to kind of give a context for CopperPoint, so you kind of know, where we were coming from, some of the challenges, why we did this. So just to start from a historical perspective, so CopperPoint's almost 100 years old, started back in 1925 as one of the state funds for Arizona. In 2013, CopperPoint actually became CopperPoint, privatized, and at that point then began a journey of expansion, both lines of business and states. In 2017, we acquired a company called Pacific Comp. That was California workers' compensation. And then 2019, we acquired Alaska National. And Alaska National really broadened the footprint, both from a workers' comp perspective, the states they covered, but also brought in a much bigger non-workers' comp P&C business with them. So that was really the history and kind of the background from a CopperPoint perspective. So if we look now from a technology perspective, underpinning that, 2016 is when CopperPoint began our Guidewire journey. So started again, single state, single line of business, just workers' comp, and we started with policy, billing, and digital, so digital engage. In 2018, we rolled out an expansion, so we picked up additional states, and most importantly, we brought in ClaimCenter, so ClaimCenter conversion, and we converted all historical claims into Guidewire. So we were full suite at that point. In 2022, we released the first set of expansion that started to bring in Pacific Comp. So we rolled in California, we migrated the Pacific Comp business onto the Guidewire platform, and we also migrated Alaska National's billing onto Guidewire billing. And then that's started that evolution of Alaska National. In between that point, we were getting ready to build the rest of the Alaska National pieces and accommodate the other lines of business. And then that was when the opportunity for cloud came along. And we looked at it and we decided, given the evolution, if we wanted to make the decision, that was the best time for us. Rather than build out P&C, we were on Aspen on-prem, so we were pretty recent from a version perspective. But we felt like cloud would allow us to take advantage of some of the data model capabilities when we're building out P&C. So made the decision to go to cloud, and in 2023, May of this year, we completed that migration. So we moved everything to cloud. We actually rewrote our digital, moved it to the Jutro platform. It was a big bang implementation. And probably the biggest piece of that is what Sid's going to take you through is the data piece. It's wildly different in the cloud versus what we were doing on-prem. We do have an EDW, and we feed the EDW out of, when we were on-prem, we fed it out of the core tables. So you'll see how we've done that in the cloud. And then we completely redid our integration architecture and moved everything to Mulesoft. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our kind of primary architect of this journey, and let Sid talk to you.
Okay. Thanks, Brad. I want to start with a quote from my favorite author, Peter Drucker, that says, "Most successful organizations always sense future, respond to it, and seize it as an opportunity to become better. And moving to Guidewire Cloud has given us that opportunity to see a better and bright future that aligns with our mission, vision, and overall strategy." So let's talk about why we decided to move to Guidewire Cloud. And I'm going to reiterate what Brad mentioned. We have had inorganic growth in the recent times, specifically due to acquisitions. We started with one state and one line of business, if you think about it. We are now at 21 states and 3 lines of business. And our goal is to expand to all 50 states and all PNC lines of business. And that's our eventual goal in the next few years. So we are aggressive. And at this aggressive pace, we want to make sure that as an organization, we not only focus on revenue, but also remain cost effective. At this aggressive pace, we want to make sure that we leverage the latest and greatest innovation from cloud and Guidewire Cloud in general. And at this aggressive pace, with all the data expansion and data proliferation that is going to happen in the next few years, we want to make sure that we provide consistent, superior experience to our agents, brokers, and policyholders. So in terms of metrics, let me give you an overview of what we have achieved so far as a part of our cloud migration effort. So we've built close to 100+ integrations in Guidewire Cloud. But the key point over here is 50% of them were reusable integration design patterns that can be leveraged to connect any future systems. We have unleashed a formula, a winning formula of infrastructure as service, platform as service, and software as service solutions. We have leveraged, in addition to Guidewire Cloud, implemented products like Ansible, Mulesoft, Databricks, and have built close to 1,000+ data and job pipelines. And with the Guidewire Cloud release to deploy our integration code, we've also built our own CI/CD solution in cloud that allows us to deploy our code faster, adhering to Guidewire's standards and best practices. So all of this has been a game changer for us already. With our CI/CD solution, our reusable design patterns that I'm going to discuss later, we are able to get to market faster. We are able to ship our products faster at a reduced cost as well. Previously, our Guidewire stack was on-prem. We were running Insurance Suite apps on-prem along with Producer Engage and Customer Engage. And we noticed that upgrades were very expensive. They were longer running projects, and they were very expensive. But moving to Guidewire Cloud, we are already seeing that the upgrades are cheaper and faster. And we've heard that several times with other customers in the keynote as well. We have leveraged several AWS serverless solutions in cloud that allowed us to innovate faster, and that allows us to focus more on agility than infrastructure. Serverless meaning little or no infrastructure to manage, allowing us as an IT organization to focus more on strategy than infrastructure. And finally, we have been able to leverage, with the help of Guidewire community, our PwC partners, we have been able to build our own data engineering solution that feeds data to our on-premise data warehouse and our BI platform that is resilient, scalable, fault-tolerant, and is fully capable of all the expansion and growth that we are going to see in the next few years. However, our journey to cloud has not been easy. We've had challenges in the past. We've had hurdles when we started our Guidewire Cloud journey, but here is a silver lining. With every challenge, we found new opportunities and new ways to solve problems. So when we started our Guidewire Cloud journey, we started with data challenges and integration challenges. So I'm going to touch upon these separately. So with Guidewire Cloud, we came to know that, of course, we will not have access to Guidewire databases directly. And that had a cascading effect to our enterprise warehouse, a well-established enterprise warehouse which is on-prem, which relies on Guidewire's transactional data for daily reporting and compliance. Our product owners in our organization are tech-savvy, and they were used to accessing a copy of production data to generate reports, to assess activities in X centers, for example, to assess claim severity, to look at the delinquent accounts, for example. So they were used to accessing a copy of production data. Our app developers were used to accessing production data to triage production issues as well. So we were wondering how to address all of these challenges. On top of that, we had integration challenges. So our integration stack was completely on-prem, running on a monolithic server. And there was a need to re-platform and re-architect our on-prem integration stack to remain compliant with cloud standards. We have had several continuous running transactions running on-prem, such as sending checks to the bank and recording the transactions back in Guidewire system. And we were concerned, and we were overwhelmed how they are going to be impacted with Guidewire Cloud release. But we are also concerned that with cloud, how are they going to be monitored and regulated? We had concerns about data security, specifically around data transfer to cloud and data transfer from cloud. And we were also concerned about the impact of our existing ETL processes that we are already running on-prem, sending data to 50-odd systems, and we are scratching our heads to figure out how they are going to be impacted if we move to Guidewire Cloud. To cater to these challenges, to cater to these concerns, to cater to these problems, our winning formula was cloud-native patterns. So I know this diagram looks a little overwhelming at a first glance, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of parts. But let me tell you, this is our blueprint of our current and future. So let me break it down for you a little further. To start with, we have Mulesoft at the heart of it, which is our core integration layer. With Mulesoft, we are easily able to connect to Guidewire Cloud, all our external systems, our AWS CopperPoint cloud environment, and our on-prem infrastructure, where we have our enterprise data warehouse. The benefit of using Mulesoft was enormous. With our Mulesoft stack, we were able to connect from Guidewire Cloud to our external systems pretty easily and still stay compliant with latest Guidewire Cloud assurance standards. With Mulesoft, we were able to re-implement our integration stack, which was on-prem, with several out-of-the-box Mule connectors and marketplace connectors available. And finally, with Mulesoft, we were able to scale up and scale out to adjust with our data expansion that we are going to see in the next few years with zero or little configuration. So Mulesoft was a game changer for us, and we were able to easily uplift and rewrite our integration stack with Mulesoft. We moved several of our core business logics to Lambda functions. So there are several Lambda functions running in cloud. Again, those are serverless functions running in cloud, meaning no infrastructure to manage. These are independently running functions, and they can scale up and scale out without any configuration. Our Ansible, we built Ansible in cloud. That is our core enterprise orchestrator that is being used to trigger critical batch jobs in the Guidewire system. We've built our own integration databases in cloud. Again, these are built in Aurora Postgres serverless. So serverless along the similar lines, nothing to manage behind the scenes here, we are using database as a service. We built several generic file transfer solutions to transfer files from Guidewire Cloud to our vendor SFTP locations, from Guidewire Cloud to our on-premise environment, using our S3 and generic Lambda patterns. This architecture is completely in line, in congruence with how the core architecture of Guidewire Cloud is built out. One of the key challenges that we had, and I touched upon it in the previous slide, is how do we transfer data from our cloud environment to on-prem, and how do we transfer data from on-prem to cloud? And that's where we leveraged a product, a unique product called Fivetran, that allowed us to perform two-way replication in real time from cloud to on-prem. So Fivetran at its current state has 400 connectors, and it allows us to connect heterogeneous sources in cloud and on-prem and perform replication. So for example, we had legacy data in our on-prem environment. We wanted to provide that to integration. That was done by Fivetran. We had operational data source in our on-premise environment. We used Fivetran to replicate it in real time in our integration database so that Guidewire Cloud can access them. And finally, if we are also doing the replication from the other side, where the data generated from integration layer gets replicated in near real time to our on-premise environment, where it goes all the way to EDW, our enterprise warehouse, for reporting. So Fivetran has been really key for us because we are able to connect to any data sources in cloud with the help of Fivetran connectors to any data sources on-prem to transfer data and files. But one of our biggest concerns was, how do we transfer and access data from Guidewire Cloud since we do not have Guidewire databases available to access? And that's where we leveraged a unique solution called CDA along with Databricks, and we built our own data lake and our own data engineering pipeline that streams data all the way to our on-premise environment, all the way to our enterprise warehouse, so that we can serve our business users with critical reports. So I'm going to pause for a moment here and ask a couple of questions. So raise your hands if you've used Cloud Data Access before. Raise your hands if you've used Databricks before. Okay, that's great. So for those who have not used CDA before, let me give you a brief overview of what CDA is all about. So CDA is a solution from Guidewire that generates incremental data from insurance suite applications and stores the data in the form of Parquet files in S3, which is exposed to the customers. So let's say if a claim or a contact was updated 10 times during the day, the CDA process in real time would generate 10 transactions and generate Parquet files corresponding to those transactions in real time. What we have built as a part of our data engineering solution is we are with the help of Databricks, we are consuming the CDA Parquet files that are generated in real time, and we are pulling the data all the way to our data lake. And that is happening in near real time with the help of powerful multi-threaded Databricks process. Within the data lake, we have built 3 zones. The first zone is raw zone, where we have the Databricks multi-threaded process that takes those Parquet files, the data generated from insurance suite apps, and then loads it into our raw zone. Then we have another feature in Databricks called autoloader that essentially loads the data, the Parquet files, into memory in the form of tables. So we load all of that data, incremental data that is coming from our raw zone into bronze zone, where we can actually visualize the data in the form of real tables. And finally, from bronze zone, we perform several critical ETL operations to store data in a silver zone, which is essentially tables with ACID compliance applied. all of these tables are running in memory in Databricks. Silver zone is actually a representation of how the table schema would look like if we had direct access to table, if we had it in a self-hosted environment. So once the data, the incremental data coming from Insurance Suite app reaches all the way to Silver zone, we keep aggregating it throughout the day, and then at night, during a scheduled period, we push all of this data through an Ansible job, which triggers a powerful Databricks process that takes the latest snapshot of Silver data, pushes it all the way through our AWS Direct Connect dedicated network to our on-premise environment. Once the data reaches our on-premise environment, that's where we have several other ETL processes that run on top of the data that comes from Silver zone. It goes to pre-stage, landing, all the way to enterprise warehouse, where it goes, and then enterprise warehouse feeds into our enterprise BI system. A key thing to note here is that the data from Silver zone that gets pushed into enterprise warehouse, the ETL operations being performed on our enterprise warehouse largely remains unchanged as a part of our cloud migration effort. So we are able to provide an exact format of data that enterprise warehouse expected for their ETL operations through the Silver data that was getting aggregated in the Silver zone. We are also doing something very special with this CDA process. So we have actually integrated the CDA data that lands into the Silver zone. We've exposed an integration with Amazon Kendra. And that is being exposed in our Producer Engage application, where agents can use that integration to perform search on account and policies. So this is something new, and this has something never been done before, and we have been able to do that with the CDA process. So the data comes in near real time to the Silver zone, and Amazon Kendra can automatically index it, feed it to our search application and Producer Engage, and agencies and agents can actually search account and policy using this integration. So this was our way of serving data to our warehouse, but we did explore several other alternative solutions. Obviously, some of these solutions might be a great or very good fit by themselves, but we are going to share why they were not a good fit for us. So let's start with the first one. We can build the same kind of lake and same kind of data engineering process using Amazon EMR, EC2, Lambda functions to process the Parquet files. The challenge of doing that is there will be a lot of upfront work that you need to do to set it up, specifically around manual configuration and specifically around data scaling, auto scaling. So that is the reason why it did not work for us, because we had to do a lot of upfront work to set up Amazon EMR or fleet of Lambdas or fleet of EC2 instances. The second option that we pondered upon was SSIS. Why not process the Parquet files directly using SSIS? We have SSIS running on-prem. We have SSIS jobs running on-prem. Why not just use an SSIS plugin to process the Parquet files and provide the data to our warehouse? The problem in doing that is it is limited to the available hardware that we have in our data center. So it cannot scale with the data expansion that we are going to see in the next few years, right? And then we also observed that it was harder to integrate SSIS with our existing cloud services that we have hosted in our cloud environment. We also pondered upon Snowflake as an option. Now with Snowflake, it typically requires you to copy your enterprise warehouse all the way to Snowflake Cloud. And we were not ready to do that at all, because our enterprise warehouse is a well-established warehouse on-prem, and we were not ready to put that into cloud. So that is one of the reasons why it did not work for us. But one of the other reasons why Snowflake did not work for us was Snowflake at that time did not support unstructured data. So our vision for our data lake that we have built in cloud is to support all kinds of data, structured like those Parquet files generated by Guidewire, and also unstructured data generated by integration. So we have a central location for data access and data governance. but it was not possible with Snowflake at that point in time. We also explored Guidewire Snapshot. Obviously, Guidewire Snapshot requires manual coordination with Guidewire at its current state. It does not solve for the real-time use cases that we wanted to do with our CDA platform, the data engineering platform with Databricks. And of course, it comes with additional costs based on consumption. So the CDA solution with Databricks that we built was a perfect fit for us, and we were able to, get our developers up and running on day one and focus on ETL code without worrying about infrastructure, without worrying about auto-scaling, without worrying about security. So let's talk about what are the benefits and who are the current and future consumers of CDA platform. Obviously, CDA is very critical for us. It is actually supporting general ledger, which is very critical for our business. But the enterprise search using Amazon Kendra that we have built for CDA, that can be leveraged for any kind of searches that we do in our platform, in our Guidewire platform and Producer Engage platform. For example, if I want to do any kind of contact search, I can extend our Amazon Kendra search capability to search for contacts from the CDA data in Silver Zone. We could also extend it for claims and other types of entities from Guidewire system. Our predictive models, we have a couple of predictive models running in cloud environment, but they rely on enterprise data warehouse for their data. But our future vision for predictive model is to use a combination of real-time data coming from CDA, but also use historical information from our enterprise warehouse. We're also exploring generative AI capability with the CDA data to get more insights out of CDA data. We're also proofing connecting Power BI in our Databricks platform to perform real-time analytics to serve our business users better. But all of this is in a proof of concept state. So all in all, within the realm of data, CDA has already created new pathways for us, new opportunities for us, and we are seeing a lot of interest in accessing with CDA with new projects or new integrations that we are trying to build. So finally, we would like to offer some unique and valuable recommendations based on what we have accomplished thus far. And this is the most important slide of the day. So let's start with performance. So with Guidewire Cloud, we ran into performance issues while we deployed our code and integrations in Guidewire Cloud. But our recommendation is to build key performance indicators, specifically around response times and other response time measures such as latency, and build dashboards around it. So we use Datadog for it, and we built several key performance indicators while we saw those performance issues. We also saw performance issues in code, and our recommendation is to use a lot of caching strategies, multi-threading, bulk inserts, and message queue if it's an asynchronous process. So these are some of the recommendations of how you can optimize the integrations when we move to cloud. Because cloud has so many layers, so many hops, so each data element or each data request actually goes through all of these hops, and the performance is impacted. Our product owners, like I mentioned, were used to querying a copy of Guidewire data, but we need to rethink our overall data strategy as a part of Guidewire Cloud. We have Data Studio, which some of our product owners use, but it has some limitations around different types of queries that we execute on Data Studio. It doesn't support aggregates, for example. So our goal is to explore broader capabilities with Data Studio as we get the upgrades of Data Studio in future, along with the Explore tool for future analytics. One of the key challenges that we had with Guidewire Cloud was shared multi-tenant environment. So we realized that we cannot have CDA connected in all the environments in Guidewire, and we have 21 non-production and pre-production environment combined for various of our parallel projects. So since CDA is not connected to each of these environments, it requires a lot of testing strategy, test planning, environment planning around CDA. We need to make sure that while we are building that testing strategy, CDA is at the center of it. But one of the other challenges that we saw as a part of CDA is whenever we are doing parallel testing. So if we had to restore database with production data in one of the environments in a star system and redeploy CDA, we would see performance implications in other environments, specifically around batch runs, because we have a shared star system and the resources, underlying resources are shared. So hopefully all of these issues might be mitigated in future releases of Guidewire Cloud, but at the current state, we require a lot of planning, environment planning and testing strategy around the CDA process, as well as the shared environment, multi-tenant environment, and shared resources, and shared star system with Guidewire Cloud. We ran into a few network latency performance as well in Guidewire Cloud. So our recommendation is to use dedicated network as much as possible, leverage private links or VPN. Guidewire supports VPN. We have a direct connect established with our cloud environment all the way to on-prem, but we are also exploring the possibility of using a dedicated VPN when we access Guidewire Cloud systems. But in order to maintain business continuity in Guidewire Cloud, we also need some strategy around disaster recovery. And we are already exploring disaster recovery strategy with our integration stack. We are exploring active disaster recovery for our integration stack. So it is highly recommended for business continuity that as an organization, we plan for effective disaster recovery strategy in cloud. And then the final advice that we would like to give as a part of our experience with Guidewire Cloud is to engage with CDA testing with prod data as soon as possible. Now with CDA, you have so many layers. You have the CDA layer which generates CDA data from Guidewire, and then you have these multiple hops where CDA data gets transformed, and then you eventually, for us, it goes into our warehouse. So we have all of these layers, and it is critical to test out all of these layers with production data. So our recommendation is to use multiple runs with production data on a CDA connected environment so that we can test all of these layers properly before going live. So from our perspective, the cloud migration journey has been a fantastic growth opportunity. It has been a journey of challenges, but it has also been a journey of significant advancements. And we are really proud of what we have achieved as a part of our cloud migration effort. With that said, I would like to express my gratitude and pause here for any questions. Thank you. Can we get a mic? Yep.
I thought I was loud enough. It's okay. All right. Power of community. This is where we share information.
Yep.
And one thing is, this looks awesome.
Thank you.
You have suffered through it, and now you are at a very good point to take the strategy. So good job.
Appreciate it.
Couple of things. When it comes to real-time data, there is a court binding. Sometimes courts continue and they will be issued. And if we want to do analytics on why a court did not proceed to issue, so that's one type of data. And then the second type of data is, I'm going to commit the transaction, so now that goes to EDW. So that's one.
Right.
And second question would be around, here we are kind of replicating the data. So if there is a data issue, do we have to then, or we have to fix it in all the places? So just wanted to kind of see around data fixing, where sometimes we call it firefighting process because data is not right, so we have to report the information correctly. So what was the strategy used around that?
Yeah, I'll answer the second question first if you want to allow me to do that. So yes, we will need a testing strategy on how we are going to test CDA with all of these layers. So a data issue can happen anywhere. It can happen in our warehouse. It could happen in the ETL process that we have built in Databricks. It could happen on the CDA side also, where there's something going on with the CDA process. So we have dedicated teams, luckily for that, who can spot it. And then the way we work is we work from bottom to top. So we find the issue in our enterprise warehouse first because we have robust systems to catch errors in our enterprise warehouse. So if we don't see any issues there, we have a system to assign the issue to a data engineering team that we have in our company who will look at the ETL process on Databricks side. And then if they don't find issues there, then the data engineering team will work with Guidewire support to see if it's a CDA issue. So it does require a little bit of effort. Luckily, we have Jira in our organization. Every issue is linked. We are assigning it to correct teams, and that coordination is well established within our organization. Now, what was your first question again? Can you elaborate that?
Real time.
Yeah.
So if let's say we want to evaluate an underwriter's performance,
Right.
they are having a success of only 30% when other underwriters are 60 or beyond that.
Right.
So real-time data, when we talk about that, so Guidewire is in cloud now.
Right.
So let's say in a day, underwriter works on 100 forms, only 30 of them were issued successfully, and if let's say as a company you want to evaluate
Right.
what happened versus committed and issued transaction.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that data would be available to us in the lake, right? So you would, Sid talked about Kendra, so we could use Kendra from a search perspective if we wanted to see something like that. Or we could, there's reporting capabilities either through Databricks or others to be able to do those kind of reports.
Yeah. To add to that, the benefit of using the CDA process is we are getting a very granular snapshot of data through the CDA process. So all the codes which have not been bound, we are going to get every changed transaction of the code through the CDA process in our Parquet files. So in our raw zone, we will have all the data available. So if we have to run analytics on top of that, we can do that. There's nothing stopping us from doing that.
Yeah, we could actually see iterations of a quote.
Yep.
Hi, I have few questions. So I am currently implementing the similar solution for my organization. So few technical questions, right? So you are bringing data using CDA, and we are also doing that. But this is sort of a batch process, right? I don't think as of now any event-driven thing has come up.
No, so Guidewire CDA is now releasing a new event-driven process using Amazon Event Bridge.
Yeah.
We are working on that, but right now, what we are doing is we are actually constantly polling Guidewire S3 bucket to get the most recent transaction. So we are not copying data, all the data every time. The copy that we are doing is incremental copy. So we are sniffing the S3 bucket to find out what has changed, what has been added, and we are pulling only that information.
Yeah. So we are also doing the same thing, like using the manifest.json to see that what is changed and all.
Yeah.
And the last question, right? On the testing strategy and really awesome presentation. So my understanding is that, right, as you mentioned, so we have different zones, right? Raw layer, bronze layer, and silver layer, right? So basically testing should be starting from like how many Parquet files I have pulled, and then how it's showing into raw, and then silver. So everything has to be tested. We just cannot directly go to the final layer and see that, okay, I had this and now I have this, right? So is it the correct understanding?
That is the correct understanding if you are implementing CDA for the first time. But if you have a well-established data engineering pipeline, you don't have to, check every layer all the time, right? You will check wherever there is issues, right? If you're implementing CDA for the first time, it is critical to test data right from the source, which is our S3 bucket on the Guidewire side.
Yeah, so we are implementing for the first time. We are building a data lake, and that general ledger also be impacted. So, it is very important to test entire end-to-end.
And we have done all that testing before going to cloud. Yep.
Thank you so much. Now I have a confidence that I can implement it.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you for shared experiences. I have a couple of questions. Did you use this mechanism for financial reporting?
Yes, we are, yeah.
Okay, and how did you implement the reconciliation?
So we did a couple. We already have an enterprise warehouse where we are running those reconciliation reports. So we already had a well-established framework in our enterprise warehouse to do that reconciliation, right? But with the CDA process, we actually installed an accelerator in the Guidewire system that would give us certain counts, for example, audit counts. But at the same time, in the CDA process, where we have built raw, bronze, and silver, we are actually capturing transaction log. So we are actually counting how many records in a table we have received in a given run of a CDA, how many data fields have changed, what updates have happened, what is the recent transaction. So all of that is getting tracked in a transaction log database that we have built in our CDA pipeline with Databricks.
I have a question in regards to your Databricks platform there in your silver tables kind of set up there.
Right.
I understand they're kind of a complete copy of the production system, so to speak. So does that automatically, like as new tables, new columns, new entities get created in the source system, does that work with automation all the way through to that silver layer, or do you have to have some engineering to do some changes along
Very
that
good
line?
question. Yeah. So we have that feature available in Databricks to do it automatically, but we have not turned it on primarily because we are in a very early stage. We just released Guidewire Cloud, and we are getting the upgrades now. So we want to make sure that the data that is coming is completely tested out before we turn that automation on, so that the data flows all the way to CDA. So right now it is not turned on, but in the next few years when everything stabilizes, we will turn on that functionality. So if a new column is created in Guidewire system, automatically it will be available on Silver. Yeah. And the other point, yeah, and with the event bridge as well. Yeah. And then the other point that you mentioned about Silver data, it is not the exact copy of how the Guidewire tables will be. Silver data contains a lot more data. It contains a lot more granular information. So going back to my example of contacts, if I had 5 updates to, let's say, a contact address during the given day, we will have all those 5 records in our Silver zone, but we will have an indicator in Silver zone which will tell us which is the most recent data.
I heard you mention about 20 non-prod environments in your on-prem system before. How did you navigate a limited number of CDA resources to pair that up with your EDWs going forward?
It has been.
It's probably one of our biggest challenges. It's a pain point for sure. Yeah. We have to be real intentional with our testing strategy and really walk through when we're going to be testing. And the other complication with that is when you think about date moves, if you're going to go forward and then you try to come back. And so it requires a lot of real intentional planning as you walk through your testing strategy because it is a limiting factor. So some of the testing we can do where we don't need CDA because you're really just testing Guidewire functionality, and so we don't need to make sure that we're testing that all the way down to the EDW all the time. But for anything that we need to test all the way down, we have to make sure we have a CDA environment in that pipeline.
So congratulations on implementing this really well. I have a question. Guidewire is investing a lot on the cloud data platform, right? So you being one of the early adopters, what do you think? Would you be able to use this, protect your investment, or would you have to use the latest that Guidewire is coming up with, like the Data Studio, Cloud Data Platform? So what are the pros and cons of being one of the early adopters?
Yeah. The pros obviously was that we were able to build our own data lake. We can run real-time analytics. We are running our search with CDA. But as an early adopter, we did have a lot of learning experience with specifically around CDA. When we restore a database in Guidewire system, we have to redeploy CDA all the time, and it goes through a Guidewire ticket. There is an SLA to it. So we've had pain points there. But when we talk to our customer success manager, their vision of data is CDA is going to be the future. So we will not have access to data in any other form than CDA. Read replica might go away in future, that is what we've heard. But CDA is going to be the future, so there will be updates, increments, enhancements on the CDA platform in the coming future, and we are excited about that.
So I'm sorry we've run out of time, so we'll have to end the session, but I think Sid is available for one-on-one conversation, so please give a big round of applause.
Thank you everyone, appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.